again. Bonus points in the chat for anyone who can name which TV series that song was from. One of my favorites, and hopefully you enjoyed it too. Just before we get into the Tier 0 games, I've decided to upgrade my cup of tea, I know very British, to a nice bottle of whiskey, my favorite. This is Glenmorangie 12 year. It's not too expensive, but it was my birthday last week. So I was very happily gifted this bottle, and I figured, you know what, it's a Saturday, it's Christmas week, it's 12:30 at night. I'm going to enjoy a little bit of whiskey with the CPL matches. If anyone else is joining me in enjoying a small beverage this evening, then cheers to you. And oh, that's nice. We'll be getting started with KilahAce versus Tarpman in just a moment. Now, Silverwolf, if you are still in the chat, I know you said in the chat that you are going to be taking a break from Starcraft and the tourney. I think that's completely reasonable. I mean, I know it's the Christmas break too. So yes, and when you do return, I really do encourage just focusing on enjoying the game. At the end of the day, none of it really matters. In the grand scheme of things, you know, the blue pale dot that we are, not to get too philosophical, but at the end of the day, this isn't life or death, and we don't need to put so much pressure on ourselves into these games, and we should be trying to enjoy ourselves. So I hope that after taking a bit of a break, that we can come back and you know, find that enjoyment in playing a little bit of cheeky Brood War once again. So just before we get started, I need to do my due diligence of upgrading the scoreboard so that we show the correct players. And I think I'm also likely going to add in, let's see, KilahAce, add in the Twitch chat into the stream as well, as I recognize that some people might decide to watch the VOD. I might even export some of these VODs. And, you know, without context, I recognize that I am trying to interact with chat when folks are chatting in there. And so, yeah, it's nice for people to be able to see who I'm talking to and who's joining us today, all you lovely viewers in Twitch chat. So we're going to be on Butter for game 1, a nice ZVZ, and this is once again week 6 of CPL. We've just casted tier 3, going into the tier 0 gods next, so I'm sure many of us will be able to learn a thing or two, myself included, from how these games will play out. So that's the scoreboard now updated. The replay is ready, and we'll get stuck in. Alrighty, so in the top right hand corner, as this brown Zerg, we have Tartman. In the bottom right hand corner is the green Zerg, we have KilahAce. Now we got to see a ZVZ between Aaron, a ZVZ series between Aaron and Insomnia yesterday, and Insomnia was opting for the very normal sort of style of going Mutilist, while Aaron went for a very Ling heavy style and was able to take the series 2-0 using that style. I'm going to be paying close attention to see how these tier 0 players decide to play out their ZVZ. Now, If you were here before the break, then I shared a little bit that I got the pleasure of meeting Tartman, and I believe also his wife came along to the Montreal Chat Starlan, which happened, I believe, in the summer. My memory fails me exactly on dates and things, but it was a wonderful event. I got to meet lots of the very active players that we see throughout CPL, but also through BSL and other things. Got to meet up with Sammy and Herbmon. Artosis was there. Gypsy was there. It was a really nice event. I believe Tartman was able to take top 8 in that tournament. So coming in here, really deserving of his tier 0 status. KilahAce, he and I chat a little bit. KilahAce is able to speak Spanish. So I recently came back from living in Colombia, so I cheekily was able to practice some of my Spanish with KilahAce at times, and we played a few matches too. Both players uh, basically wipe the floor with me whenever we play. I think I may have taken a game off KilahAce once, but I've never been so lucky with Tartman. So we'll see how the relative skills are in ZVZ. Both of them going for, it looked like a 9 pool, both of them following that up with a hatchery. In the natural, very mirrored. You can see on the minimap is a complete mirror so far. Both of them sending their first overlord to the natural of the opponent, the second overlord to the main of the opponent. I suppose this likely influences their decision making, but also enables them to see what's coming across the map. So the benefit of being able to see if they've built a natural, but also the benefit of being able to see exactly how many lings are running across, which is very important, of course, because you want to be as greedy as possible in ZVZ. Of course, wherever you can, a drone instead of a ling is a huge benefit. So Tartman able to see 6 things coming across, already has 6 things of his own, another 2 being added on as another 2 come out from Kilah. So almost exact match thus far, except that Tartman is already building his lair. Whereas Kilah is now opting for an additional hatchery, which Tartman can obviously see underneath his overlord. But that might not matter. If Kilah is able to take an advantage with these first lings across the map, it's all going to come down to micro. Since there's 8 aside, he does decide to turn back. So a false threaten, perhaps hoping to have scared Tartman into building additional lings. But that didn't happen, as Tartman has been able to keep track of exactly how many lings have been going out and has thus far been feeling comfortable. Kilah, on the other hand, building a creep colony, perhaps preemptive, just so it's ready to adjust to the presence of any potential Mutalisks that could come across. He is able to see the main base. I wonder if he's able to see currently. Oh, I didn't want to click that. Apologies. Let's see. I just wanted to see Kilah's vision. So he can see. Oh my gosh, Overlords have such a big vision. You can see everything happening here. So Kilah is able to see the spire or the Mutalisk den being built. So he knows that it's going to be a muta play from Tartman, building up his first gas as well, having a large-ish bank at the moment, almost. He doesn't look like he's going to get supply block, but adding in more drones now, whilst Tartman is building up zerglings in preparation for a potential run out from KilahAce. So at this stage, it does seem like Tartman's build is slightly more refined. He has slightly less drones at this point in time, but more opportunity to cause damage with these Mutalisks coming out. He's going to be able to build, I think, 5 Mutalisks as soon as the Spire is ready. I wonder if he doesn't quite have the lava banked up, but he's going to be able to get into Mutalisk production as soon as that Spire is done. So it looks like Kilah is instead deciding to go for Hydralisk, based composition, which I know Anne would be very happy with, and many people in the Zerg community would be very happy with. I've had the pleasure of overhearing many Zergs at Chat Starland complaining about Mutalisks and sharing how they wish that there was a Hydra Lurker style meta more often. And it looks like Killer is taking this to heart and is attempting to go for a Hydralisk style play. Now, of course, this can work. So we have +1 air attack coming up for Tarpman. We have 3 Spore Crawlers in the natural, 2 in the main, and this has also enabled Killer to have a much higher drone count. So although we have the higher mobility of the mutas, which will be able to jump around, potentially keep forcing Killer to remain on a defensive sort of back foot, Killer has been able to get a higher drone count, and this won't particularly benefit him in a Muta vs Muta battle, but it does mean that he's able to mine a lot more minerals than his opponent, which is incredibly important, of course, when you're going for a Hydralisk-based army. So he has now got a Sunken Colony up as well, with his 3 Spore Crawlers, and is just macroing away, building more drones, feeling very comfortable at this point in time. Looks like Tarpman has added an extra hatchery. I wonder if we'll see... oh, we do have already an extra hatchery from KilahAce in his natural as well. That's possibly how he was able to add so many drones, but Tarpman causing a bit of nuisance. Attacking onto these drones, picking off one at a time. So it seems like I want to click these. I'm going to click these. 4 Mutalisks is sufficient to kill drones in 1 hit. So he's able to just jump in and out and just really keep KilahAce from being able to boom economically to such a degree as he had been previously. More Mutalisks coming out. It looks like we're still building Mutalisks, getting up a really sizable force now. And this is likely just going to be a harassing force. It seems like Killer now has a squad of Hydras chilling behind his natural mineral lines to try and fend off those Mutalisks from being able to pick off any more drones. But of course this does mean that Tarpman has map control, and with that map control he's able to take a 3rd base, whilst Killer wouldn't be able to because there's these very mobile Mutalisks, unless there was a sort of security detail of Hydras escorting a drone, which there aren't sufficient Hydras to be able to do so right now without sacrificing the defensive as natural. Without a security detail of Hydras, he wouldn't be able to take a 3rd base. And at this point is being kept not completely by like a containment or anything like this, but is being influenced into staying in his base without expanding further due to the presence of these mutas. And this is really one of the pros of playing a muta style, is you really get, if your opponent is playing a Hydra style, you really get to have map control for a long portion of this stage of the game. Of course, the hope is from the Hydra player that they'll be able to bank up enough Hydras that when they do come to pushing out across the map, then they'll have such an overwhelming force that mutas won't be able to do anything. But Tarpman doing a great job whilst those Hydras are spawning to be able to pick off just 1, 2 here, and all of that adds up. And now he's been able to pick up a Spore Crawler. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to click and see how many mutas are here. So there's 9 mutas here. I think there may have been 10 a moment ago, so that was sufficient to take out a Spore Crawler. And now raining down these glaives onto the drones of Killer and starting to bring down his drone count a little bit. A lot of these mutas starting to get low on health. He's lost a few of them, so he's being forced to pull out. Meanwhile, Killer decided this was his moment. His one shot, his one opportunity to push out, moved across the map, and he took an engagement. It could have gone well, but the mutas started popping out. The Lings were a factor as well, and of course with the higher mobility units you can't run away from mutas. Unfortunately that's the end of the game for KilahAce. Tarpman played a wonderful Muta style really highlighted why this is the preferred play style of so many Zergs in ZVZ. So great game from Tarpman. I loved the Hydra style from KilahAce, but Tarpman was really just clinical in his demonstration of how to take apart a Hydra-based player. You know, picking off Hydras as they're moving from the main to the natural, taking the opportunity to oh. 1 second. Taking the opportunity to take a third base, using the advantage of that mobility of the Mutalist as well. I think this is a great example of a Muta versus Hydra game. So we have game 2 coming up on Deja Vu. Getting stuck right in. So, changing up colors this game, but Tarpman in the teal as this top left Zerg with KilahAce as the mustard color. I don't know what this in-game color is in fact called, maybe olive? This mustardy olive color in the bottom left. So we'll see if Kilah opts to go for a Hydra style play again. It looks like he's banking up minerals and may in fact just be going for a 4-pool. I haven't seen one of these in a while. Always fun. So we'll see how this goes. As I understand, it comes down largely to drone micro. Yeah, I feel this is a treat. You don't often get to see a full pool game, especially if you're watching something like an ASL. I think there's been a few instances of 4 pools happening, but not for a long time. So interesting to see how this plays out, what factors come into play in defending a 4 pool from Tarpman's point of view. Of course, the Overlord going anti-clockwise. It's a normal scouting pattern, but it's unfortunate for Kilah that isn't going to reveal the location of Tarpman. Maybe he'll be able to see Tarpman's Overlord, however, coming into his main base and use that as an indicator for where he has spawned. So it looks like Tarpman is going for a natural expansion before a pool. So this could very well play out in Kilah's favor. There's no spawning pool yet from Kilah. Very greedy build from Tarpman. As I said, I'm not an expert in ZVZ, but if I can consider the decision between going for a 9 pool or a 9 hatch in the natural, I would consider the 9 hatch to be an economically greedy build. It looks like he was even able to get out before this Overlord spotted the Lings. So Tarpman's going to be completely caught off guard, at least until these 2 Lings run out. The Overlord does see that, maybe. We'll see if Tarpman was paying attention. But yes, things coming across the map at this stage already. Still no spawning pool, only about halfway done. It looks like this was a perfect build order choice from Kilah, ignoring the natural and going straight into the main base to try and start getting some damage down. Tarpman already trying to build a creep colony. Let's see how he does. 1 drone goes down, 2 go down, 3, 9 remaining. Some of the Lings dying. The drone's just completely exploding at this point. It looks like Kilah's done it. Well, not only did we get the treat of a 4 pool, but we got the treat of it working. I think that's an amazing thing in itself. Tarpman, of course, choosing an economically greedy build, completely caught off guard by this. So I hope you enjoyed that. As I said, ZVZ for me is not something I watch very often, so that was a rare treat, I feel, for myself and maybe some of you in the chat. Let's see, pulling up game number 3 now, the deciding match between KilahAce and Tarpman. We have that ready. It's going to be on Radeon. Let me update that scoreboard. It currently says Deja Vu. Oop, wrong button. There we are. All right, game number 3 between these two tier 0 players. Tarpman playing for... oh, I've put Tarpman on Team Tarpman. I'm sure he is a bit of a one-man army, but that's supposed to say Shift Clique. So Tarpman playing for Team Shift Clique, or Shift Clique. KilahAce playing for Supply Block Party. Coming into game 3 now. Tarpman in the bottom right is the brown zerg, KilahAce is the white zerg in the bottom left. Looks like both of them are going to be able to scout each other first, so this should inhibit any particularly sneaky play. Looks like neither player opting to go for a repeat of game 2 with a 4 pool, which I think you can only really pull out once in a while. But I would presume that Tarpman is not going to be building a hatchery in his natural on 9 as he did the game before. Maybe KilahAce will though. We'll see. It seems like Tarpman is getting the better end of the stick in terms of drone mining efficiency. Already able to get 50 minerals ahead. I don't know if he's intentionally, maybe we can see if he's intentionally, looks like he might be intentionally mineral boosting some of the drones at least. Of course, mineral patches on the right hand side do mine slightly faster. So it looks like Kilah is going for the pool. Both players going for the pool. Kilah going for one slightly earlier on 9, whilst I think Tarpman built his on 12. I think so, maybe on 11. So Tarpman going for a slightly more economic pool opener. Kilah going for the slightly more aggressive opener. So hi Eskaya in the chat. Eskia? I think Eskaya is right. I don't think I've ever pronounced it out loud before. And we have a question also. Oh, I see. That question was to Eskaya. How many streams are you watching? Eskaya actually has 16 monitors in front of him and watches every Starcraft stream that's being played all simultaneously at all times. That's just the way he is. Eski. Alright, I'll call you Eski for short. So 4 lings coming out, 6 lings coming out for Kilah. Able to be spotted by the Overlord of Tarpman. I wouldn't have minded this Overlord slightly deviating to keep an eye on the map, but I think the Overlord sight range is so large that it wouldn't have mattered. He would have been able to have seen it in either regard. So lings coming across for Kilah. Tarpman trying to build lings of his own. It looks like Kilah not deciding to pull the trigger straight away, just sort of banking the lings up in the middle of the map a little bit. We saw him do this last game, sort of understanding the Overlord had seen his lings, moving them across and trying to force his opponent to build more lings than is necessary. The moment his hatchery and his natural has come out a little bit earlier, but he has a few less drones than his opponent because he has a second hatchery as a natural and is building a creep colony. I feel like this is a habitual pattern for Kilah. I think we saw this in game 1 as well, just to always get the 2 hatches and the creep colony without really feeling the need to take into account what's going on the opposite side of the map. Similar to game 1 as well, Tarpman is going for that spire in his main base after a good gas timing. Kilah completely avoiding, neglecting, I suppose, his own gas until this moment in favor of getting up a higher hatchery count with the hopes of improving his drone count in the early stages of the game. And of course, Overlord's able to see exactly what's going on both sides. So Tarpman and Kilah in full knowledge. Oh, Kilah caught a little bit out of position with his lings outside the front, which means that Tarpman's able to run in. Is he going to be able to get any drones with this? Looks like one goes down before Kilah's Lings catch up to help with the defense. Tarpman looking for another drone, able to get it. 2 drones going down from Killer. Great move from Tarpman, just recognizing the vulnerability of Killer in that moment. Does lose all of his Lings for those 2 drones, and has produced more and is rallying those across the map. Of course, there was a creep colony out there, so perhaps these Lings of Tarpman are really just there to ensure that he has some sort of standing defense. As the Mutalisk coming out, there's also a creep colony going down for Tarpman to ensure that any sort of counterattack from Killer should be able to be held off, but we'll see how it goes. Of course, Ling's unable to shoot up, but Mutalisks don't put down a large amount of DPS, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with a much greater Ling force. We see 16 Lings from KilahAce with only 8 from Tarpman, but Killer, with his Overlord, recognizing that there are Mutalisks there, so he knows that if he commits with these Lings, then he better be damn sure that he's going to be able to break through. Tarpman recognizing also that all he needs to do is defend. So he has his Lings on the ramp, he has a spore, creep colony, sunken colony rather. KilahAce coming in, forcing the Mutalisk to come back. Meanwhile building spore crawlers in his base, but the battle's raging on. KilahAce getting the worst end of the stick there. It seems like a sunken colony makes a huge difference in those Ling versus Ling fights. But nonetheless, he was able to make sure that those Mutas stayed at home for a little bit longer whilst he got up his spore colonies. Still only has 1 in the main base, and I believe there's around 7 Mutalisks now. And I think if they dive, they should be able to kill the spore. It looks like he's opting to attack straight to the drones. Taking a lot of damage now. He needs to get out of here. It looks like he might lose 2 Mutalisks, only killing 1 drone. Not a wonderful trade, but nonetheless maintaining a drone lead at this stage. So Tarpman in a really good position. He has complete map control with his Mutalisk. He has a drone lead, or he did. Killer with his additional hatchery, taking that back now. And it looks like Killer might be ramping up to go into that Hydralisk style again. And we'll see if he has better luck than he did in the first game. Of course, in the first game we had very similar builds, and Tarpman was able to really just dominate the map with his high mobility mutas. So coming back in, looking to see if he can get any damage on additional drones. Looks like it might be 2 shots. Maybe only 1 shot, in fact, to kill drones at the moment if it's all stacked well. Taking some of the shots with the Overlord. I think that's quite a nice strategy. If you can drag the Spore Crawler into attacking the Overlord, you can get an extra half a second with a Mutalisk of not getting shot at. Doing good damage onto the drones. I think he's been able to kill 4 or 5 so far with just this bobbing in and out motion, not losing any Mutalisks in the process, and just keeping, similar to game 1, keeping KilahAce's economy from really getting out of control. And of course, he needs to do this with these Mutalisks because they're not a super strong standing army. They pair well with Lings, but if he were to face a large force of Hydralisks in a straight up battle, the Hydralisks are much more cost efficient. So really taking the strengths of the Mutalisks here and ensuring to keep the drone count low. Looks like that Hydra Den is now up. KilahAce is looking to get a second Evo chamber to marry his missile attacks, perhaps with a Carapace upgrade as well. I love how the Mutalisks enable such a huge amount of map vision, really enabling a player to feel incredibly safe at any point in time. He has the Lings parked out the front. He has Overlords all around the map, making sure there's no sneaky bases, taking a 3rd base. This is looking very similar to game 1. So in game 1, Killer, as happens with a slower attacking force, moved out with the hopes of being able to do some damage, but once the tide of the battle turned, wasn't able to retreat, and the Mutalisks, Tarpman's Mutalisks were able to clean up the Hydra force. So we'll see if Killer can make any adaptations to his gameplay to ensure that doesn't happen again, but At the moment, the Mutalisk is doing a great amount of damage, picking off a Spore Crawler, even killing the gas of KilahAce, which is going to keep him... it doesn't seem like it's going to inhibit him too much in his ability to make Hydras. He already has all of his upgrades on the way as Hydra range, Carapace, missile attacks, really getting ready for a strong timing attack. So I did want to click on this, and I wanted to make sure I hadn't missed level 1 missile attack completing already. It seems like I hadn't, and it's going to be a 1-1 timing on the Hydra list coming into attack. And Hydralisk in position, ready to support that Spore Crawler and make sure that these Mutalisks aren't able to get too much, but it's very reminiscent of ZVT right now, where the Mutalisks are just able to pick off a single unit at a time and are really just here to make sure that the army never gets too large. Also putting damage down on the Extractor, which is super nice, but I mean, Tarpman's supply count is really running away now. He has a huge Mutaforce back at home. This is only his expeditionary force, only his harassment, annoying force, and not the majority of his army. It seems like there's a little Overlord party going on in the top right-hand corner. That's fine. Ling's spotting the Hydra move out, so Tarpman knows that he needs to get ready for these Hydras coming across. Very similar to Game 1 right now. It looks like it might be very much a replay of the first game, where Tarpman just has such an overwhelming force. It looks like he put it to the side to really just come and trap these Hydras and make sure they have no chance of getting out alive. Of course, they are slower, so the Mutants can always chase them down, but not that much slower. So there is some need for moving shot, but paired with the Lings with speed, the Hydras are just getting absolutely obliterated, and Tarpman taking what was a lead into a very commanding position into this portion of the game. He has his third base up, it's very well saturated. He has a drone lead, army count lead. It's looking like it might be over for Killer. So for all those who wish that they didn't have to play Muta, I think what we're starting to see is really how powerful Mutalisks are, and I hope this is I feel like this is very much a strong manifesto for the benefits of playing a Muta style. We've seen a clinical play from Tarpman in keeping harassment on, keeping Hydra count from getting too high, and really just abusing again that mobility of the Mutalisks to, even when there is a push out, just completely shut it down and stop it from being able to get back home. Because it's one thing to win a battle, it's another thing to completely obliterate the opponent's army with none of them escaping alive. Now, we are seeing some Mutas putting on pressure. Nice. I mean, Tarpman knows that he's got a lead at this point. He can afford to lose some units, but one of the nice benefits of killing the Spore Crawler, although he took losses whilst doing it, is that now KilahAce cannot go out without leaving some Hydras behind. One Spore Crawler isn't going to be enough to fend off these Mutalisks, so he's forced to keep back some Hydras, and it just gives Tarpman even more map control, enabling him to take a fourth base at 2 o'clock at this time also. So really starting to run away with this game. Tarpman showing us why he deserved to get such a high placing at the Chat Style LAN in Montreal earlier this year. So we are getting Flyer Carapace at this time. I think that's good. I mean, I feel like he's just extending his lead at this point. Killer trying to move out again now with Lure, because he's going to be able to clear these first few Mutas. And if Killer's first attack had looked like this, if he'd maybe been a bit more patient with bringing up a larger force, then maybe he'd do more, because this amount of Hydras, looks like it could cause some challenges for the Link Force, especially with the Lurkers in there. If he's able to micro route, it does seem like there's such a beautiful surround from Tarpman. Any hope of this attack having success has just been wiped out. That being said, the Lings were killed. It was a good attempt, but I think that was basically Killer's last hope of doing something in this game. At the moment, he's on 17 drones compared to 35 of Tarpman. I think he's just really forcing Tarpman to earn his win here, as this is the decider game in the series. Killer doing everything he can to stay in whilst there's any semblance of hope. Of course, stranger things have happened. Tarpman is sacrificing a good number of mutas, but unless something seriously goes wrong, I'd be very surprised if Tarpman's able to throw this game. He's in such a good position. Of course, Killer doesn't quite know, because the mutas have denied all map vision. You can't have overlords watching the opponent's base. Killer's never seen this third base. He's never seen this fourth base, so he's not necessarily able to judge the game state quite as well as we are. This is a very common thing in ZVZ. At some point in the game, it does become very hard to know how the opponent is doing and what you can do in response to them. Tarpman really showing off his muta micro here, killing off even more drones and keeping Killer in the Stone Age of economy. Yeah, excellent use of the muta style by Tarpman. I think there's not a lot left to say for this game, so I'm going to enjoy a little bit of beverage. Looks like Tarpman is gearing up for a final attack into KilahAce's base and really force him out of the game. I mean, he could afford to lose this whole army twice at this stage. Thank you, your cube, for pointing this out. Tarpman has elected to go for a Greater Spire at this stage, and he's getting adrenal glands as well for his Lings, so he's just adding insult to injury in regards to how far advanced his ground army is going to be. Be interested to see. There we are. We do have some Guardians coming in behind the 6 o'clock base, so these are really going to make Killer's life hell. If it wasn't bad enough already, there's going to be Guardians completely out of range of the Hydras, able to completely shut down the mining on his natural base. Meanwhile, Tarpman is just waiting outside the natural of Killer, begging him to try and move out and do something so that he can squash the attacking force. So Guardians coming in now, supported by mutas. Killer recognizing this is his moment, this is his last chance, moving out into the Lings, which already have adrenal glands. This is the last attacking force from Killer. Doing a good job cleaning out some Lings. There is another force outside the natural of Tarpman waiting in the wings. Not that bad, honestly. I thought it would go worse for this attacking force, but able to at least clear out the Lings, though Killer decides it's enough, decides that he doesn't have another push in him. Good game by both players. Of course, the Guardians were doing massive amounts of damage here, completely shutting out the mining and the natural, and basically putting Killer onto one base. So even if he'd wanted to do another push, he just wasn't going to have the income to be able to replenish that number of Hydras. Really good move, especially on this map where there was this large space behind the natural. I mean, I believe on most maps there is at least some room behind the natural, but this map really lending itself to abuse of Guardians. So very well played by Tarpman. Was able to take the series out 2-1 for Team Shift Clique. Alrighty. So, I enjoyed that. Up next, we're going to have Razz versus DoodleDoodle. So we're going to have another mirror matchup in PvP. I'm very much looking forward to this one. PvP is a huge represents a huge proportion of any Protost's ladder matches. And there's a lot of finesse in it, especially as you get to the upper levels. Everything is so well calculated and timed out, and all of the small sort of build order differences are so finely so fine that yeah, it becomes a very tight game of finesse, not just in your build order choice, but you know, in Dragoon Micro and things like this. So I'm just going to quickly update the scoreboard before we get into this next match between the Tier 0 players of Supply Block Party and Shift Clique. So we have Razz for Supply Block Party and DoodleDoodle for Shift Clique. I was very happy that that last series that we just watched between Tarpman and KilahAce was able to go to Game 3. That's the first Game 3 I've casted so far of CPL. I mean, this is only my second CPL cast, but so far it's been 2 zeros all across the board. So happy that we finally get to a Game 3 decider match. This and this. So starting off on Butter between Razz and DoodleDoodle. Looking forward to seeing how both players play out their PvP series. So, although he's called Red Razz, he's in fact in the blue, up here in the top right hand corner of Butter, and DoodleDoodle, or Mr. Doodle, or CPL Doodle, in the bottom right down here as the olive Protoss. It's a 2-player map, so my natural inclination is that 2-player maps lend themselves to 2-gate. Now, at the highest level, this isn't often, or always rather, this isn't always the case. People's Dragoon micro just gets so darn good, and their Zealot micro gets so darn good that you end up being able to hold off a 2-gate with a 1-gate, completely nullifying the effects. For us mere mortals, it isn't so easy. So 2-player maps lend themselves, in that case, often to 2-gate, especially Butter, where there isn't a ramp between the main and the natural. When there isn't a ramp, then you don't have to guess what's up there, and when you do eventually get Dragoons, then they have an equal playing field to fight across. But I hope many of you are in the same position. I'll be trying my best to learn from these 2 players as we go through this series, as both very, very well known in the scene, very high ranked Protoss players. I know many of you will be familiar with Razz from his casts on Bombastic Star League, always doing a great job there. So not only his cast, I know he also plays in BSL, but it is difficult to really get a feel for a person until when they're just a name on a screen. You feel a lot more familiar with people when you see them casting, and so I know we've had the pleasure of getting a bit more familiar with Razz through his BSL casts. So both players going for a 1-gate build. Doodle building looks like he built slightly. He's slightly faster at this point in time. Doodle was able to get his Zealot out earlier, his Pylon up earlier, and his Core up earlier. So I don't know if there was something that occurred in the early game that maybe slowed down Razz a little bit, or if Doodle's just been really maximizing his probe mining efficiency, but he's been able to get things out slightly faster so far. His probe count is slightly higher as well, so Small optimizations in the early game do make a difference, especially when you're going one game. Um, Especially if the opponent, it's one thing in a mirror game, but if your build has a slight weakness against another build, then those optimizations will make all the difference in overcoming a sort of build order loss that might normally occur, and giving yourself more of an opportunity to keep playing. And it's those sorts of optimizations that really make these players, give them that edge above so many of us. So Doodle keeping up his good production, going for a second gate before any tech, whilst Razz is going for that. Oh, excuse me, I did miss that. Razz has built a second gate already, and is building a robo, so this might have been him cutting probes. It looks like he may have done so intentionally so he could have gotten that earlier gateway after all. So they do have a similar army count, but Razz, whilst slightly behind on probes now, and whilst he was slightly behind on his early building production, has now taken a lead, at least in tech and in production. Doodle still trying to catch up. Now, of course, Doodle will have the defender's advantage with eventually the same number of buildings, now also just starting his robo facility. So it looks like Razz is comfortable with staying on a much lower drone count to enable himself to get a larger attacking force earlier in the game. 4 goons and 1 Zealot moving across the map. I'm not sure if this will be able to push through this choke in the natural, or if it will just be here to, have a check, have a see what's going on, give him some reassurance that there's no funny business going on from Doodle. Did I get things mixed up? It looks like I got things mixed up. Looks like, in fact, Doodle had his robo before Razz. Razz got the second gate earlier. Hoping to out micro Doodle. So far, not the case. Doodle doing a great job of pulling back his weak Dragoon. Razz deciding to leave a sacrificial goon behind whilst his Zealot runs in and gets a full scout off. This does give him great security in knowing that there's not going to be DTs coming across the map. He knows that the building composition is equivalent to his own, so electing to get a second nexus now. He did cut some probes early in the game, so maybe hoping that this second nexus can keep him in the game, as he's recognized that his first attack didn't do that well. He's now a goon behind, at least he's a goon behind if he's on Doodle's side of the map, and yeah, just looking to take advantage of his own defender's advantage and the knowledge that he's gotten that there wasn't any DTs, to just go straight into Reaver and defend this expansion. Meanwhile, Doodle doesn't have such knowledge, so instead was forced to go into an observer, which means that his Reaver, whilst it's well on the way, he wasn't able to build that first without confirming the tech of the opponent, as DTs can always just come and ruin your day. I mean, I know he saw Razz coming across the map, but not only to confirm a lack of DTs, but just to generally see what's going on. So he's been able to see that there's a natural up for Razz now, and going into the main base to continue his scouting, seeing that Razz is indeed building up Reavers. It looks like Doodle is going up for 2 Reavers of his own and following up with his own Nexus. Now, Doodle has maintained his probe advantage. Razz hoping to catch up as much as he can, whilst Doodle's Nexus is still under production, building 2 at a time. So trying to make up for those probe cuts that he made early on to give himself a more aggressive edge. Of course, Razz chose to go for a 2-gate before Robo, Doodle going for the more conventional Robo before second gate. Oh, unfortunately, one of Doodle's probes is stuck, so he's going to be helping Razz out a little bit in bridging that probe deficit. But as it currently stands, Doodle maintains a very significant, honestly, probe lead. Effectively, Doodle is getting around 20-25% higher income than Razz. So he should be able to add, here we are, a third gateway much before Razz is able to. Now, whilst Razz was able to prioritize building Reavers before an observer, he has opted to build an observatory and an observer after the first two Reavers. This enabled him to get his Nexus faster, but at the end of the day, you always need observers. You never know when an opponent could decide to switch into DTs or just take strong advantage of their own observers. It sounded like there was a drop. Oh, they're here. I was scared I'd miss something behind the middle line, but not quite. Just dropping them at the front. We'll see how the micro plays out. Of course, Doodle has got a shuttle, which makes a huge difference in these battles. Razz's shuttle just arriving to the party now. Fairly equal. I think Razz does have slightly more in terms of Dragoons. Doodle taking now, recognizing that he's forced the goons of Razz to the front and taking the opportunity to fly around the back and taking out so many probes. If he didn't have a probe lead before, he's certainly confident that he does now. Razz desperately trying to catch the shuttle, putting a little bit of damage down, but only taking off some of the shields. I feel like Razz is going to be forced to move out at this stage. He lost simply too many drones. Looks like there's the same shuttle is going into the main base now of Doodle, recognizing that Razz is going to be forced to make an aggressive move. And yeah, really just demolishing his economy. Of course, whilst that's happening, Razz is moving out across the map. He does have an army advantage if he's able to corner the goons of Doodle. I don't think he's going to be so lucky. Of course, this map has a lot of pathways which Doodle can escape down. And it looks like he's moving to surround the forces of Razz. Doodle taking even the high ground and yeah, able to pick off just a few goons at a time. The shuttle of Reavers of Doodle able to get back to his natural and help this defense. Oh no, the shuttle of Razz isn't able to get taken out by Doodle. Very fortunate from Razz there to be able to take that out. Did okay with the fight, but there's still 4 Reavers for Doodle and enough goons to make it such that this attack cannot do any more. So maintaining a 12 probe lead, Doodle looks like he's setting up to take a third base. And after you've defended an attack like that, especially when you finish off with an army force that's greater, it's a great time to take an extra base, knowing that you have a lead and electing to give yourself even more of an advantage into the next phases of the game. Let's have a quick look at the gateway count. We have 4 for Doodle, 4 for Razz with an extra on the way. Looks like Razz has no intention of expanding. Does drop his Reavers, however. That was an amazing hit. I didn't expect those Reavers were ever going to get a shot off. I thought they were going to dud for sure. But Razz getting a very lucky Scarab, or skillful Scarab, getting a good Scarab there, and able to clear out some probes completely now, equalizing the probe count. Very surprising, but these things can happen in PvP. It's a very back and forth a matchup. It can all depend on a single Scarab. So Razz has done a great job of being able to equalize this game from behind. I feel like he did he made a great decision to pull back and keep that shuttle out across the map. Perhaps Doodle might have preempted that might be the case, knowing that might be the only option for Razz to get back into this game. But nonetheless, Razz doing a great job there and having a very fortunate Scarab to ensure that he was able to kill a lot of probes. Doodle pushing forwards in a great way here. I'm not sure if Razz is going to be able to hold on here. Doodle being able to pick off the first Scarab. He has a shuttle with his We did have a shuttle with his Reavers, so he's been able to cart them about very well, pushing right in. The Reavers of Razz. Oh my God! The Reavers of Razz were out of position since they were busy killing the probes of Doodle, and well, Doodle's had his revenge. That one Scarab must have killed at least a dozen probes. Now, Dragoons causing havoc in Razz's base. They won't live forever, but they're really hoping to be able to kill this robo facility. And if he's able to do so, that would be huge. We're not able. Oh my gosh, he kills the robo facility as well. Such pain on the side of Razz right now. As I shared, like so much of PvP depends on just having a really good Scarab against the opponent's probe line, and without a robo facility, these are the last two Reavers that he's going to have. Both players sending shuttles across the map. Razz was able to spot the shuttle of Doodle. Hopefully that doesn't mean that he's able to just corner the shuttle and pick it off. It looks like two Reavers sufficient in wiping out those goons. Razz recognizing the position he was in with the third base of Doodle up and running, although he was able to have a Reaver down there uncontested. There were goons in his natural, there were Reavers in his main, and Doodle did a great job, honestly. There was a moment where it looked like Razz might have been pulling it back with his wonderful Scarab shot in the natural of Doodle. But in the end, that just meant that his Reavers were left out of position and opened the doorway for Doodle to push through and destroy the goon force of Razz. So I think that was an excellent game one. I'm going to update the scoreboard to reflect our victor of Doodle, taking a lead in the series 1-0. Oh boy. Thank you, Yakub, for catching that Doodle also elected to get the Scarab damage upgrade last game. Not something we see too often, but when you're building a large amount of Reavers, it makes a huge difference in the fights. I believe it gives a plus 125 bonus onto the Scarabs, which, is that right? That doesn't sound right, but it's either way, it makes a huge difference in the Reaver versus Reaver battles and also the Reaver versus Goon battles. I believe that damage bonus also increases proportionally across the splash radius as well, so that might have influenced a lot that last battle. Okay, ready for game number 2. It's going to be on Deja Vu. We'll get started. Alrighty, so coming out of a loss from the first game, we have the Peach, I think. I'm not sure what the in-game name for this color is. I'm going to call it Peach. The Peach colored Protoss, Razz in the top left. And the teal, the victor of the game one, Doodle. So of course, Razz is playing here for Supply Block Party and Doodle for Shift Click. We saw in our Tier 3 matches, I believe it was an even split between Shift Click and Supply Block Party. However, so far in Tier 0, Tarpman was able to take a series lead for Shift Click in his 2-1 victory over KilahAce. So Doodle looking to continue the fashion of Tarpman for Shift Click, Razz looking to reverse the trend going into game 2. Both going for a 1-gate opener. It seems to be a lot more standard to go 1-gate opener and higher levels of play, of course. The micro gets a lot better in it. These players know. I mean, if you've been playing ladder for as long as Doodle and Razz, I think you learn how to hold off a 2-gate, just because it happens so darn often. It becomes almost like defending early lings from your wall. It's just something. It's like learn or die. It's something you have to learn to overcome, and so it becomes a lot more common to do these 1-gate styles, especially also, of course, this is now a 4-player map. The ramp is still quite large, so there is opportunity for cheeky 2-gate play. Of course, there are eggs there as well, however, so I think it's a 2 zealot wide. You might be able to get away with 1 zealot. Personally, I wouldn't be confident in having only a single zealot there, but there we go. So it looks like Razz opted to have a zealot before core, maybe just wanting to be a little bit aggressive, maybe also just wanting to have a better opportunity of perhaps even getting some pro damage down, also doing a pylon block. Very effective way of keeping an opponent in their base. Probe's still running around in his main as well, so that means that the zealot isn't able to help out with killing this pylon. A lot of probes for Doodle currently focusing down this pylon. I believe there's 3. Gosh, the zealot from Razz appears, gets 1 probe for his troubles, second one trapped, not able to take out the second one. Dragoon and zealot putting on damage. I think killing a probe there is fine. Of course, also the pylon block really slowed down the mining of Doodle in the early phases of the game. He was also able to get a full scout off. I see that Doodle has hidden a probe in the base of Razz. Razz is privy that this could be the case, however, and is searching for it. Is able to track it down and is going to make sure that this probe isn't able to get any more information than he should be allowed to. Similar to game 1, Razz going for the 2-gate opener. I mean, of course, it was slightly different in that he went for zealot before core in this game, but going for 2-gate before any tech. We did see one of our players in tier 2 doing this yesterday, and it wasn't able to stand up to the sort of 1-gate opener of their opponent. We'll see how it plays out in this case. Maybe this will be a very good example of how to do this 2-gate opener, sort of delayed 2-gate opener into Robo. It's something that I've tried myself, but I don't think I at all know how to execute it well, as I feel like it's very middle of the road, but it doesn't seem to have many advantages, and it seems to be difficult to play out well. Doodle once again preferring to go Robo before 2nd gate, the same thing we saw in the last game, which enabled him to have faster observers, get a good scout out, whereas Razz is preferring, it seems, to be aggressive with his units in order to get scouting information. I think in the end it's likely a stylistic choice. Of course, Razz basically, because of his style of going 2-gate before Robo, needs to be aggressive with his first units and really push and confirm what's going on, because he wants to make the decision. Seems like he wasn't able to do so in time. He wants to be able to skip that observatory if possible, because he knows his Robo is a little bit later. In this case, he wasn't so able to, but at least his units have been able to take a a sort of containing position outside the ramp of Doodle, and that's facilitating him to be able to get a faster expansion, similar to game 1. However, in this game 2, he already has a probe lead. In game 1, he was slightly behind on probes, so this might work out a little bit better for him. I believe he cut some probes in game 1 to get the faster gateway, but in this game, he felt comfortable enough just using the first zealot before core to get a good scout off, to get some good damage before going into his 2-gate, rather than postponing his probe production. So he had been containing the natural at the bottom of the ramp here, choosing to move back to this high ground, a little bit of a more defendable position. Of course, you do get the opportunity of catching goons as they're filing down this ramp, but as it's a wider ramp with eggs, that's been cleared out, and so instead Razz choosing to take this high ground where the Reaver can't quite so easily just walk down and shoot them. This is a very strong position if he's able to hold it. Now, Doodle does already have a Reaver out, second one on the way, both players getting shuttle speed. Seems like Doodle's shuttle speed is going to be faster again because he did choose to go for that robo before second gate. It has of course meant that his nexus has been slightly delayed and that his probe count is slightly behind, so he is going to be required to do some damage at some point, either to the probe line or in a straight up engagement using his superior Reaver count with earlier shuttle speed. Of course, shuttle speed makes a huge difference in these Goon Reaver versus Goon Reaver battles. Looks like Razz is strategically starting to position some pylons around the place to ensure that if there is a Reaver and shuttle coming his way, that he has more than enough time to react to it. His own 2 Reavers chilling in his natural, not able to go across the map at this stage. Doodle looks like he's starting to move out, starting to move to his 3rd base, maybe just... He's aware of this goon force on top of the ramp, so I'd be interested to see how he decides to react to it. These Reavers being very bold. They could be picked off if they're not careful, but staying just out. One goes down very quickly. Great move from Razz to react to that super fast and pick off one of the Reavers. Of course, in this moment, he has a goon disadvantage, but picking up that Reaver means that he has a Reaver advantage back at home. 2 Reavers and a shuttle. The shuttle of Doodle going straight to the natural of Razz behind this. Similar sort of pattern of threatening the front, forcing all of the units of Razz to move to one location, and then abusing that with a shuttle and Reaver. Able to pick off, I believe, let me click on this. I know it's... Oh, I missed it. Able to pick off, I believe, around 7 or so. Probes, maybe 8 now. Is he able to get out? Oh, so close to being picked off, but able to get out. Very important he's able to get out. Giving himself a nice little probe lead. Now, of course, there are some positional imbalances with rotational maps in that Razz's natural is slightly more exposed than Doodle's. Definitely plays a factor in these Reaver drop circumstances. Looks like Razz this game is going for the Scarab damage upgrade, deciding that he needs to get an edge in these upcoming Reaver Goon versus Reaver Goon battles. Doodle now has the high ground above the natural and 3rd of Razz, but he doesn't have such a strong goon force, so it looks like Razz should be able to push this back. Doodle not able to pick off a Reaver like Razz was able to, but Doodle once again choosing this opportunity to drop into the natural of Razz. This is a wonderful pattern that maybe could become a little bit predictable, but it's just the way it is. I mean, if Razz wants to push up that ramp, then he's going to have to use his entire force, and he has been able to. He but it also gave, of course, an opening for Doodle to move out. Now, in this case, Doodle is in a little bit of trouble. He's done good probe damage, but he needs to be able to survive this incoming attack from Razz. He's brought back his shuttle with his Reavers. It's a little bit low on health, so whilst there will be a micro battle happening, I love the goons on the high ground here. We'll see if he's able to micro his Reavers and the shuttle. It looks like he's able to hold off this incoming attack from Razz. So Razz, I believe, did get a few probes in that exchange, which has somewhat evened things out. And he is now in a position where he has... oh, you can really see that scarab damage upgrade coming into effect there. Just 2 scarabs taking out 3 goons. He's not going to be able, I think, to get out with that shuttle. But I don't know if the damage is done. Oh my gosh, 2 Reavers with 2 Scarab shots. That Scarab damage upgrade is so powerful. Another Reaver going down. There's not much left for Doodle here. He does have 2 batteries. He's trying to reposition some units. With that shuttle, oh, there we go. Shuttle and Reaver, many times better than Reaver just by itself. Looks like he will be able to defend this, but he's taken a lot of probe damage in the meantime. Doodle continuing to build Reavers. It looks like Razz is, at least for the time being, isn't building more Reavers or more shuttles. Doodle seems to be favoring a continued Reaver production to try and help his defense. Of course, when you're behind on a Dragoon count, then the best way to get back into it is with Reavers. You're not really going to outproduce an opponent who's building, even particularly Razz going for that 5 now 6 gate style, which is afforded by not building any more Reavers. Doodle once again trying to see if he can sneak in and get some probe damage, but it's not quite the same opportunity as he had before. He hasn't yet forced Razz's units to move to the front in a defensive position. In fact, it's Doodle who's maintaining his defensive position, rather just keeping his shuttle there to threaten a possible drop and assure himself that he isn't going to get pushed in this moment, enabling himself to take his own high ground, maybe even take the high ground outside Razz's base, give himself a little bit of a positional advantage, which will be important as Razz has now, he's taking a commanding Dragoon count lead, and married with that, a commanding probe lead of 7. It looks like Razz is taking this opportunity now. He's added on extra gates. It looks like he's up to 7 gates. He's added a citadel on. He's likely going to be adding on a Templar Archives as well. He's still got a shuttle with 2 Reavers. Looks like he did continue his Reaver production. It's amazing how much more Razz is able to afford in these moments than Doodle. I don't know if perhaps Razz, it seems like he may well have been, just cut a few Dragoons. He hasn't felt the need to keep building probes as much, and that's really allowed him to, since he already had a probe lead, that's really allowed him to focus on adding additional production facilities in preparation for the next stage of the game. It looks like Doodle is taking a bit of an economic risk, recognizes that he needs to do something, that Razz has at the moment a larger force, and Doodle deciding that the risk that he wants to take is to take an additional base. He's not going to be able to defend it if Razz is able to find it. Oh my gosh, that Scarab damage is huge. I've never seen 2 Reavers take out so many goons all by themselves before. You can really see that coming into play. A really powerful upgrade. 3 Reavers from Doodle, however, likely going to be able to push back this attacking force. Once again for Razz. Seems like Razz, his third is being blocked. I don't know if he has any intention at this moment of taking a third, as he has added on so many gateways that he's just going to be able to keep cranking out goons. Now, he has only 1 Reaver left, Is he building any more? He is building more Reavers. He's got the archives coming along as well. Oh, that one poor Reaver getting left behind to fend for himself is going to get picked off. He wasn't invited to the goon party. So sad. So sad. Razz still building another Reaver. Trying to spread out his goons so that he can completely overwhelm this force. It looks like he will be able to. That Reaver getting abandoned by Doodle in a similar fashion, recognizing that he wasn't going to be able to pick it up with the shuttle without risking the shuttle getting deleted by this huge goon force. Still having 2 Reavers back at home, he might be able to have better luck with microing these Reavers into the shuttle, so long as Razz, I mean, even if Razz does push forward in a heavy way, this amount of goons trying to come through this choke is a scarab party waiting to happen. So recognizing that he can't really push any further, instead electing to take again this high ground. We've seen throughout this game how important this high ground above the shared natural and third positions is in PvP. I mean, the Dragoons, they don't shoot very often. They shoot with high damage, so when you have a mischance on that, it makes a big impact. Doodle being a little bit cheeky, seeing if he can once again find an opening for his Reaver. He has been able to take a probe lead with his constant probe production. Choosing to drop a Dragoon before the Reaver, so he's able to soak up a little bit of shots. So having just 2 goons here wasn't enough to protect the natural. That's something that I'm definitely going to try and implement myself. Ooh, look at this! DTs from Razz making an appearance. It took a little while for the observer to get here, but they do get here. I can't believe that Reaver didn't die. Still only 10 health remaining, but those shield batteries saved the day, paying for themselves by keeping that Reaver alive. Looks like Razz is taking a 3rd base now too, and also starting to build High Templar. I feel at this stage that's his only option if he wants to break this position. Blanketing this small area with storms will do a huge amount of damage. Oh, the shuttle. Able to get away. Able to bait Doodle to come out of his shell a little bit. Razz moving into the fray to try and capitalize on this move out, taking out 1 Reaver so far. 3 more Reavers remain. It's a lot of Reavers. I love this Reaver heavy style from Doodle. Razz engaging before, just a little bit before he has those storms. Not sure if it would have been beneficial for him to wait, but he got good stuff done. I believe that Razz is under the impression that Doodle, I would expect very much that he's under the impression that Doodle's still on 2 base while he's building his own 3rd base, so he should be feeling comfortable, and I guess he's feeling comfortable in making trades in that regard. But in fact, Doodle has that secret 3rd base. It looks like Razz is about to go and scout it, maybe suspecting that, you know, this unit count is a little bit too high for there to just be two bases, especially with one of them mined out already. Doodle moving out as that scout happens, however, and Razz completely surrounding it with his reinforcements and his original attacking force, cleaning out all of the goons, leaving Doodle in a bit of a tight spot with regards to this upcoming defense. Razz deciding not to be too overzealous, however, and run into Reavers with shield batteries. Doodle once again being very active with his Reavers on the map, doing a good job of putting pressure onto Razz's own 3rd whilst his own is being destroyed. Now, of course, unfortunate that Doodle's base has been destroyed here, but he knew that when he was building it. It was always a risk. He got some really good value out of it. In the meantime, those Reavers across the map similarly look like they might be able to shut down Razz's base, so a great trade for trade on the 3rd bases of both players. Oh, these Reavers are in trouble now. They're behind enemy lines without an evac. The goons are swarming in on all sides. There's a bit of a Black Hawk Down moment. Reavers picked off, but great job from Doodle being so active with his shuttle reavers, not only doing great damage to probes throughout this series so far, but able to pick off a Nexus. It looks like these nomadic probes are looking to take another sneaky base for Doodle in the bottom left. Very unlikely for that to be scouted, but another economic risk. And I don't blame Doodle for doing that at all. I mean, if you can take a risk and get away with it, then why not? Especially as he so far has been the person who's been more active with his harassment, knowing that he can keep the attention of Razz more in his base. Only able to pick off one probe so far with these Reavers. He's going to be looking to get out of there before these goons show up. Is able to do so. Always a relief. Having two Reavers in a shuttle is such a terrifying thing to be dropping into the opponent's base. One mismove and you're losing so many minerals. But look at this. Doodle with such a great understanding of how to force unit movements in these PvPs. Pulling Razz's force back and forth between his natural and his third. Even intercepting this force. I'm not sure if Doodle is going to be able to maintain this high ground. Razz pushing out with a much larger force. Reavers dropping in the natural of Doodle. Able to get off some damage. Not quite yet equalizing the probe count. Seems those probes of Doodle that went to the bottom left are making their way home now, so they're able to join back up with their buddies, share some stories about all of the things that they've seen whilst traversing this large map. This has been an excellent game so far, so back and forth. Neither player has yet been able to break the other one. Some wonderful differences in the play styles. Doodle once again demonstrating his amazing ability to be active with his shuttles. Always find the openings, always find the moments when Razz's army is forward and preparing for an engagement, and using those opportunities to drop into probe lines. It seems like we're going backwards in probe count, going back towards the 6-minute mark of the game. In both players now with a mid-20 count on their probes. This must be so frustrating for Razz now, constantly having his probe line harassed. Now even the goons moving into the third base, looking to pick that off. It was already, of course, damaged by an earlier foray. Able to pick it off. Huge move from Doodle. That combined with the earlier probe kills really puts the onus on Razz now to do something. But you and I both know that as soon as Razz tries to move out, Doodle's going to be right there waiting with his shuttle to go and fly into that mineral line once again. In fact, Doodle now taking the supply lead, so if this continues, Doodle's going to be able to maintain his control of this high ground. I don't think he's going to be able to do it this time, but he can see that. He knows that it's not quite the moment. Razz has learned from Doodle's continued drops into his natural that he needs to keep a larger force there in defense. But Doodle's very happy with this. He's just wasting Razz's time. He has his own third up. It's mining. This is just enabling him to keep getting further ahead. Razz's natural is almost mined out. Doodle's natural is mined out. So unless Razz is able to either push out or secure his own third, he's gonna find himself in a spot of bother shortly. Now, of course, Razz still does have the Scarab damage upgrade. I'm going to quickly click on this. I know it's going to pause things, but I want to check if I missed Doodle getting Scarab damage upgrade. It looks like I did. So Doodle and Razz both having Scarab damage upgrade. Looks like it's a key part of both of their builds. Many players would have been very tempted to try and rescue that Reaver. Doodle recognizing the circumstance and the context and saying, that Reaver, if I try and save him, I'm going to lose both of my Reavers. So unfortunately, he's going to get left behind. It looks like Doodle still does have a Reaver advantage, has been very diligent with maintaining his Reaver production throughout this game. So good with his unit movement. Now deciding, okay, I do need to check these other bases, make sure that Razz hasn't been able to sneak out a probe, make sure that this lead that I think that I'm gaining is true and real. I'm not getting hoodwinked into you know, a huge force coming out that I'm not quite expecting. And in fact, Razz is taking this moment to move out. Both players with their Reavers at the front. Doodle doing a great job so far. He was able to snipe out the shuttle with the Reavers and maintain protection of his own Reavers. Of course, Razz is taking a bit of an advantage on the goon count and is running, forcing Doodle to run with those that he has remaining. Looks like they might not be able to get home, but we still have plenty of Reavers on Doodle's side that might be able to make sure that he isn't quite able to be pushed out of the game. Razz now forced to do long distance mining as his natural is mined out. Doodle looks like he was potentially considering taking this base again. He doesn't have the money necessarily to do so, as he's currently all in on those Dragoons. Now we're only just really seeing, I'm not sure if Storm was ever researched in this game by Razz. He has built High Templars and Archons, but I haven't seen a Storm so far, and I'm a little bit surprised by that. I'm sure he has a good reason. It's just one that I'm not privy to. Both of the players have been continuously favoring their Reavers. 4 Reavers now. This is going to completely obliterate this Dragoon force. Great micro from Doodle, picking up the weak Reavers as they're getting shot. Fantastic game there. What a treat of a PvP. Just going to rewind just slightly so we can take stock just before. It seems like it was even a little bit further ahead than that. So Razz had some goons out on the map. And what happened? Then the goons of Doodle ran in. The shuttles were on standby, preparing either to go home and defend or come and support this army. Doodle really showed us a masterclass in managing the opponent's army movement with his shuttles and Reavers all throughout this game, following Razz from one side to another, knowing when he had opportunities to attack the probe line, knowing when he had to pull back, knowing when a Reaver was done for and he shouldn't attempt to go and rescue it. Really well played by both players. I enjoyed that very much, and I hope you did too. So that means that Doodle has won this series 2-0, and so we'll be looking in just a moment to our third and final tier 0 match of the evening, which is going to be a ZVP. It's going to be between Type 100 and Worst. I love a good PvZ, and I believe it's going to be a good match. Just before we do get started, I've been talking for a long time, and I want to go and get a little bit more of something to drink, a glass of water, and take a short little break. So I'm going to put a little bit of a BRB screen on. I recommend everyone in the chat also takes a short break, get yourself some water and things like this, maybe an alcoholic beverage if you are so inclined, and come back and join us for the final series of Tier 0 of Supply Block Party vs Shift Clique.
sisters in the back. You may not have a car at all, but remember, brothers and sisters, you can still stand tall. Diamond in the back, sun rooftop, digging the scene with a gangster lean. Woo-hoo. Diamond in the back, sun rooftop, digging the scene with a gangster lean. Woo-hoo.
Welcome back. Managed to find myself a little bit of water. Didn't have to go too far. Had a note in the chat to ensure to use red and blue colors, so I will be doing that going into the next series, which, if you didn't catch before, is going to be Type 100 versus Worst in a ZVP, starting out on butter. Let's take a moment to update the scoreboard after the last series, where Doodle was able to take a victory over Razz in a 2-0 fashion. Let me see, where is that? Here. So, Type 100 playing for Supply Block Party. See, if I was very organized, I might well have done this during the break, but Excuse me, thank you, YouTube. Completely forgot the Spotify was still playing. I had completely shut it out from my mind. Is that better? I hope that's better. Yeah, I could even turn my microphone up a little bit louder. Apologies for that. Thank you very much. So, we have a Forge First opener from Worst, and it looks like, I'm trying to gather here, it looks like it was probably an overpull from Type 100. Amazing work from Worst Probe, able to get a drone. Very tilting way to start the game. But nonetheless, Type 100 able to get his hatchery down without too many issues other than that first drone going down. Lings coming out now from Type 100. It looks like he's only opting to build 2 Lings so far. This possibly may have been influenced by having lost that drone early on, electing rather to continue to rather build drones rather than investing too much in Lings at this point. Trying to do a nice little entrapment of that probe. Worst, a little bit too slippery, able to keep the probe alive for now. Going to be trying to, he has got a good amount of damage on there. I think he's only got a few hits left on it, but he's going to be trying to keep this probe alive as long as possible. Looking to do the fairly standard Forge First opener. Looks like he built his, I don't know exactly the timings. It looks like he built his cannon before his Nexus after seeing the overpull, not waiting to see how many Lings were coming out, not risking it, just building the cannon straight away before the Nexus, which is now going down. Gateway up, should be building a cyber core here, yes, just before the first Zealot starts into production. Great job from Worst keeping this probe alive. It doesn't look like it's going to be able to get back into the main base, as now Type 100 has built another 2 Lings and is blocking the entrance, but nonetheless Worst is going to keep circling around the front of Type 100's base and circling back in to try and keep an eye on what's happening and see if there's anything else that's coming out. Very important, as there's not a lot other than this first scouting probe. There's not a lot of scouting opportunity for Protoss until the first Corsair comes out. Particularly, it looks like Worst is going for a Stargate. So very standard build from Worst, just looking to execute everything very well. And he's so far so good. He was able to pick off a first drone. He hasn't had any pressure at his front. He's even been able to skimp a little bit on being overly defensive. No need for probes in the wall, as he's able to keep his first probe alive. Third base starting up and mining. Hydralisk speed on the way from Type 100. So how many drones do we have here? We have 9 there. We have 5 so far. Another 2. This could be a 973. I'm not. We'll see. But it looks like it could be going that way. Or perhaps not. After all, it looks like Type 100 is not going for such a heavy Hydra burst at this stage, rather perhaps looking to rejuvenate his economy after that early drone loss, which very frustrating, but again, it happens, and we have to get on with the game after these things happen. So we had the Stargate come up, immediately followed by a Citadel. Only 1 Corsair coming out, no air attack upgrades, just using that Corsair, even moving it along the attack path to be able to see what's coming across the map. This is really important to inform you of exactly how many cannons you need. Of course, cannons being a trade-off. In every cannon you build is a gateway you cannot have. So really important to make sure you only build the right amount of cannons, not too many, not too early. However, able to see that the Hydralisk force is coming. It looks like he's going to have very much just enough cannons just in time. Type 100 not moving in at this stage. Corsair causing a second Corsair coming out. Didn't quite expect a second Corsair, but there we go, it's here. No Spire from Type 100, so these Corsairs are going to be able to keep flying around so long as they're not able to be caught by Hydralisks. Just a few Hydralisks, nothing too serious. They did, a couple of them did get picked off. It looks like they were trying to add damage onto this forge, but this cannon setup from Worst really effective. This cannon on the left side here, able to cover the forge from getting picked off, which is really interesting to see. I think I'm going to have to try and learn this wall. It's also maintaining the path for units to be able to come through here, especially if the egg is killed off. So this is a really nice wall setup. A cheeky little zealot making a run by into the third here. I missed its attack, but it only got one kill. Meanwhile, the Corsairs are trying their best to get a kill on the Overlord. One of them getting picked off in the process. He's going to try and get a little bit greedy, taking off another Overlord, but recognizing perhaps, oh no, he does decide he's going to build another Corsair to maintain his ability to scout around the map, but maybe perhaps a little bit greedy, losing 2 Corsairs for a single Overlord, but nonetheless keeping the Hydralisks at bay and affording him the time to get Storm up. So perhaps a calculated move there to really try and make sure that that Corsair was a threat that had to be dealt with, to postpone the possibility of a large Hydra attack coming in whilst Storm was being researched. So we now do have 8 gateways up for, or on the way of being up for Worst. Corsair still flying around, still confirming, still no Spire. So all that Type 100 could possibly doing is building more Hydras. Of course, he does have a layer, so that does beg a question for Worst. Does he recognize? I'm sure he recognizes that the layer has been there. He went and scouted it. But does he recognize that this opens up the possibility for an Overlord drop? We'll see. It will really depend on whether or not Type 100 shows that he's building lurkers. And at the moment he's not researching lurkers. He's trying to make an effort to push in, but Storm is already done, so this isn't perhaps very well advised. Able to pick off that cannon, however, so if he's very careful, he can keep putting on damage to this forge. There he goes, and trying to deny the ground armor upgrade from Worst. Of course, there are enough storms here, but ideally you want to be putting down storms on more than 3 Hydras. So at this stage, even just that action of threatening the forge, causing a storm to be used, and keeping down the energy of these Templars. So 3 storms have been used so far. I would expect that there's around 2 or 3 storms remaining. A sizable Hydra force from Type 100 now getting lurker upgrades. The lurker upgrades will be able to contain and potentially look to drop his an army into the main base of Worst. A sizable Zealot force now, however, that forge does go down. I need to check. So he didn't end up getting the armor upgrade. Great work from Type 100 to deny that. All pivoting around this single cannon that got picked off and the threat of a large Hydra force, meaning that Worst didn't feel comfortable using any more storms to defend the forge. Of course, that did delay his upgrades, but whilst it was being attacked, he decided, you know what, that's fine. I'm just going to build another forge in the back preemptively and permit that forge be destroyed. Now, added benefit of losing the forge is that now he has a large, wide opening at the front of his base. That might have also been a factor going into things. Deciding also to kill off the gateway at his natural, leaving 8 gates in his main. Second forge up there also, so looking at getting the 2-1 upgrades. Not having the forging gateway here is really nice, especially as we start to get into lurkers, as it enables you such an easier time in getting your army out of your base. If you only have a single hex to work through, goons, we all know goons don't like ramps. They also don't like single hexes. They all get bunched up, and it can be quite painful to try and get them out. Only a couple lurkers at this stage. Corsair still flying around and causing a little bit of hassle. Worst maintaining a good supply lead, which is expected at this stage of the game. Type 100 is starting to add a few more lurkers in now, but really great macro from Worst so far. This is a really sizable force. He was able to add cannons only when he needed them, and that enabled him to add as many gateways as possible early on. I wonder if he's going to be waiting for his 2-1 upgrade to finish off before moving out, or if he's going to maintain, keep trying to combat this increasingly large containment that's forming outside of his natural base, choosing to kill off even a couple more cannons to even further increase his capability to flow goons out of his base. There might be a lesson for some of us who have hesitancy in killing off their own buildings, but when it comes to this style of battle between Protoss and Zerg, it's so important to be able to move your goons not just forwards freely, but also backwards freely if you need to. Looks like he is trying to move about. Type 100 looking to pick off that observer, but Worst very on top of his observer movement, making sure that it doesn't get sniped by those hydras. Taking it very patiently. His Templar slightly at risk. Type 100 jumping in to try and take some out. Only gets 1 for his efforts, however, losing a good chunk of hydras in the process. Worst looks like his patience is paying off. Another Templar goes down, 5 more remaining. So far, so good. A fairly even trade, but Worst is slowly but surely moving his way out. Scourge sitting there ready to take an observer, but weren't able to do so. Looks like Worst patience has run out, and he's really pressing forwards now, recognizing that there's not very many hydras to support this lurker field. In that case, it does facilitate for a goon force to really just go and clear them out. We really need those hydras there to support such a large lurker force. Of course, it does slow down the goons. I love some of them running forwards to get a better position. Hydra's now showing up, but I feel like Worst has done a great job already of clearing up this army that was camping outside his base. Large mineral bank building up for Type 100. Not unusual at this stage of the game. He does have a 4th base up at 2 o'clock, so he has been preparing to take an additional base behind all of this. But really wonderful work from Worst to move through that field, not becoming too impatient and losing all of his units, protecting his observers throughout. It seems like he has 2 currently, so in a good stead without many hydras to snipe things off. I wonder if he's going to spend any time trying to clear out these overlords, or if he's just going to take this opportunity whilst the lurker count is low to move across the map. It looks like this swarm of overlords is far too juicy to ignore, and he's just going for it. And fair enough. He's supply blocking now Type 100, who didn't react quickly enough to save those overlords. So a very good move from Type 100 to try and set up the contain. A little bit of a challenge faced once he ran out of hydras, and things were still, however, okay until, all those overlords got picked off, because now Type 100 can't build anything. Panic building 13 overlords at once, never wanting to get supply blocked ever again in this game. I'm not sure if that was partly a misclick or anything, but by Jove, that's a lot of overlords that he's building at once. The Lings were brought out to try and combat the Dragoons, but of course Worst already had a sizable Zealot force that was hiding in the back of his natural, recognizing that Zealots aren't going to do anything against Lurkers, and waiting until the goons had been able to clear out that force. Even having a DT drop into the main, it didn't quite come into effect by the time that Type 100 had GD'd out, but either way, fantastic play from Worst, taking extreme patience in breaking out of his contain. Excellent macro throughout, taking a third behind this, dropping DTs into the main whilst pushing out, really showing us how to deal with those lurker contains that can be so difficult to deal with. Yeah, great play. I I saw zero mistakes from Worst side, and that's sort of what I've come to understand from Worst play. Just very solid, very clean play, very well structured build orders, and a great understanding of the game all coming together. So I'm just going to pull up the second replay here. We'll see if Type 100 is able to uh, come back in this series and make it a real best of three, or if Worst is able to just run away with it. After game one, I mean, I'm in favor of Worst. Honestly, he made such a strong play there. It was very well done. So, going into game two now. Top left-hand corner, we have Type 100 playing for Supply Block Party. Bottom left corner, Worst is the red Protoss. So I'm not super familiar with Type 100. I've seen his name around the place. I don't believe I may have watched some of his games before, but I don't recall particularly. I'm a lot more familiar with Worst as he's often in the Nom channel, Nightmares of Mengsk clan channel. And he's been being very well celebrated for his rapid elevation into the upper echelons of the foreign Brood War scene. He's very quickly moved up through CPL and through raw effort and dedication to learning, and is now a very formidable player. Looks like he might be going for a gateway first this game, as opposed to the Forge first that he played last game. Another overpull from Type 100. All shaping up nicely. We'll see if Worst is able to get anything done with his first sell-up. I know Gateway Opener is a little bit harder to get a handle of, particularly for new people trying it out for the first time. Forge first is a lot more well examined and has been explored a lot more, and there's a lot more materials and resources out there. I know that Jaeyun has some great gateway first guides out there as well, but it's a lot trickier to do a gate first. So Worst having his probe here, trying to be a little bit annoying, trying to block this natural expansion from going down. Type 100 saying, I'm not even going to bother with that, I'm just going to take my next base at my third. Leave your probe to do its thing. Meanwhile, the Zerglings of Type 100 coming out were still sat on the natural, which means that these things might be able to get to the ramp in time and deny any further scouting. The probe might even get caught on the ramp. Looks like it almost gets caught, but really nice reaction times from Worst. Seeing 4 lings getting that. Forge, 2 more lings sat in the main. Not running out at this time, just running around with us for that first sell-up, coming out to put a little bit of pressure on that third and give him a little bit more time to get his defenses up and together. So he did choose to go for the Forge before the Nexus, likely because he didn't see any natural here, but now he's scouted that there is in fact a second base. I wonder if this Zealot is going to be able to get behind the minerals in time. It is not quite surrounded, but able to ensure that it's able to stay here and remain being annoying whilst... There we are. It does get picked off, but good damage on the hatchery, of course. If that zealot hadn't been addressed, it would pick off that hatchery all by itself. So a good move to ensure that that was out on the map and postponing the move out from Type 100. So very interestingly, he hasn't elected to build a cannon at this stage, going for gas before cannon. Now, there is a large number of things coming across the map, of course. Worst doesn't know this as he did lose his probe that was scouting and has also lost that first zealot. It looks like he's going to be trying to get a cannon now. Oh, he's gone for the cyber core before cannon also. So after that first decision of building the forge before the nexus in order to complete his wall, he's now feeling comfortable enough with just 4 zealots that he's going to be able to hold off anything that comes at him. And we'll see how that plays out, as there is a large Ling force waiting in the wings. Great move by Type there, trying to pull those bottom zealots up to give the opportunity of these other Lings to move forwards. A huge amount of Lings trying to break down that gateway. We'll see if Worst is able to complete his wall in time. Not quite, but he has brought all his probes down to come and fight. Lings trying to focus on the cannons. It looks like Worst is going to be able to hold on. Amazing effort, even blocking the last 2 Lings. Great defense from Worst, recognizing how serious that situation was, bringing all his probes to fight. There's only those on gas and 2 others remaining in the main. Another swathe of Lings flooding in. Maybe these will have more success. Looking to break that final cannon. Worst doing a great job of plugging the wall down here at the bottom. No success yet from Type 100. Still very precarious for Worst. He needs to make sure that he keeps his wall blocked, but it looks like Type 100 is keeping up the pressure. He recognizes that there's no gateway remaining. So there's no more zealots coming out. There's only the possibility of adding more cannons. This probe decides to move forwards, maybe trying to check how many Lings are in fact out here. But with a set of minerals in hand, able to return easily enough. This probe at the bottom is coming in trouble. More Lings coming in. It looks like is Type going to be able to kill this cannon? If he's able to kill this cannon, Worst is going to be in big trouble. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it lived. How did he do that? Amazing defense from Worst. Able to hold on by the skin of his teeth, really. This cannon with only 54 health remaining, but fantastic defense from Worst. Most of us would have died to those things. I know I would certainly have done so. Gosh, well, very well played by Worst, taking that final series of the evening to 0. That's going to be all for this evening of CPL Week 6. We've seen Tier 3, we've seen Tier 0. We've watched from Breeze, Renek, Silverwolf, Jakester, KilahAce-Tarpman, Razz, DoodleDoodle, and the final series that we've just seen, Type 100 versus Worst. If you've enjoyed it, as before, please do encourage me to keep doing these casts by giving the channel a follow. And for the rest of this evening, I'm going to direct you over to one of our other lovely Brood War community members. I'm going to pass you over to Love Snow, who is doing his own cast of CPL content. It looks like he's currently casting Barcode versus Metallica Tier 1. So setting up the raid now. Please go ahead and support Love Snow in his CPL cast also. Once again, I hope you've enjoyed this cast. I know I have. We saw some really wonderful games in the last series. The highlight for me was DoodleDoodle versus Razz. They had a fantastic PvP that was incredibly back and forth and deja vu. Of course, DoodleDoodle taking it in the end. But yes, have a wonderful rest of evening. Thank you for joining me here. Thank you for everyone who was participating in the chat. Always wonderful to see. Thank you. Stay good, stay safe, have a wonderful rest of weekend. And if I don't see you, have a wonderful Christmas too. Thank you for joining. Bye bye.